Good morning, and welcome to this Unitarian Universalist congregation. Here we gather in the spirit of freedom and friendship. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, know that you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on land formerly belonging to the Monacan Nation. My name is Betty Corbin. I think I've been around this place for almost 40 years. I met Gary Duvall's father as he had to get a key out of the wrong lock on the front of Unitarian House. So generations pass, and now we have Gary Duvall joining us on Zoom this morning during the service. I hang around with the Board of Trustees right now. If you're with us for the first time, we're glad you chose here this morning to participate in the service of this church community we love. We'd be happy to tell you more about us during our social period, either on Zoom in the chat room or behind us in Drysdale Hall, where we will have snacks and coffee. If you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter, you can, sitting in the sanctuary, fill out a yellow card if you've not already, and drop it in the offertory basket as you leave the sanctuary, or you can go to uulynchburg.org under Sunday services and complete the yellow visitor card there. You can also join our Facebook group. Now, there are announcements in your order of service and also up on the chat, but this morning we have a very special announcement coming from one of our child care workers. So please.
Hi, my name is Kay and I teach in the lower RE class upstairs. I just want to say thank you. I'm a student at Heritage and I'm involved in a musical production right now called The Prom. It's a collaborative effort with Glass Theater as well, and you all have so wonderfully and kindly sponsored our production, one of our sponsors for this production. And I just want to stress how grateful I am and the entire cast and crew are for your support. We've had trouble finding sponsors due to the content of the show. It's a queer love story, and you know how that goes over in Lynchburg, but we're just really, really grateful for everybody's support, whether that be monetarily or just from, being a part of this congregation. I'm really grateful to be, part of this community, and I just wanted to say thank you all. Thank you.
Now, let us take a deep cleansing breath and release some of our stresses from our daily lives, hustle and bustle. As we enter into our time of worship, we now light the flame of our chalice, saying these words together. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
Our opening words this morning were written by the Reverend David Breeden. Now, there is invoke, there's provoke, there's just broke, and there's awoke, there's justice, there's injustice, and there's just us. To make justice and love happen, that's what I believe because I'm a free thinker. I believe it's only us together who can save ourselves. I'm going to convoke, C-O-N, with, to call to gather, to call together, to call to get with it. Let's convoke and provoke, because those mad, those afraid of truth, shut down newspapers, bomb mosques, close churches, shut meetings down, and shut people up. If you have an address, you're in danger. But the poets, the writers, the artists, the dreamers of a freer way will persist, assist, and resist, invoking, evoking, provoking, convoking, and awakening the populace. You, poets, are the sacred. You, prophet artists, are the hope. You are the resistance. Our opening hymn is number 119, Once to Every Soul.
Is that better? Yes, it is. All right, so this morning we're going to read a book called The World Needs More Purple People. Yeah. Have you seen very many purple people? No, that must be why we need more of them then, huh? Ta-da! Follow my guide to become a purple person. How to Be a Purple Person by Penny. Now, you may be asking yourself, why in the whole wide world would I want to be purple? Purple is a magic color made when red and blue work together. I think all the best things in the world are purple. But you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with people? Wow, are you a genius? Because you're already on your way to becoming a purple person. You want to know why? Step 1, ask really great questions. My dad says purple people ask great questions. Questions about everything, even questions about questions. Like, hey Dad, how far away is outer space? Have you ever met a dolphin? How many dolphins live in outer space? Purple questions are the kind that help you learn something really big about the world or something really small about another person. How tall is the world's tallest rainbow? Look, he has his ruler. He's going to try to measure the rainbow. I'm not sure that's going to work. And she's making a new friend and says, what's your bear's name? Charlie. Dad says the more purple questions you ask, the more purple you become. How many do you think there are? They're talking about the stars. I see. He also says I can only ask him 20 questions about space dolphins every day. Step 2, laugh a lot. My grandma says purple people laugh a lot. We are always laughing together. I mean, like the snot out of our nose kind of laughing. We laugh at books, we laugh at jokes, we laugh at donkey dances and hairy elephant knees. We especially laugh at Grandpa's funny noises, like he snorts when he laughs. Purple laughing helps us remember the things we share and forget what we thought made us different. And it's almost impossible to be angry when you are laughing. Try it sometime. I dare you. Grandma says the more purple laughing you do, the more purple you become. She also says Grandpa's noises are her favorite funny noises in the whole wide world. Step 3, use your voice and don't lose your voice. My mom says purple people use their voice and don't lose their voice. She encourages me to use my voice to sing, to give good ideas, like let's wear monster costumes to school, and to share my opinions, like I personally feel like we shouldn't have to eat Brussels sprouts because I think they smell like smelly socks. I know, I think Brussels sprouts are one of the best vegetables too. Sometimes people lose their voice, and that's okay. It happens. A purple voice helps someone who is having trouble finding their own voice. Purple people don't just speak up, they also listen. So you see these kids on the playground. They look like they're maybe shouting some not kind things. And so she says, maybe you could tell them you don't like it when they call you those names. Would you like me to help you tell them? Mom says the more you use a purple voice, the more purple you become. Mom, can you help me with my play? She also says she heard my opinion on Brussels sprouts, but I still have to eat them. I'm going to work on a better argument. Step 4, work hard, super duper hard. My grandpa says purple people know how to dig in and get stuff done. He and I like to work hard while we build things, and while we learn things, and while we grow things. Purple work is the kind of work that's done together to change something that needs changing. What do we want? More playgrounds. When do we want them? Now. Fix something that needs fixing, or help someone who needs helping. Grandpa says the more purple work you do, the more purple you become. He also says no purple work has ever been done while sitting on your backside sipping strawberry lemonade, even if it is yummy. Okay, are you ready for the last step? Are you ready? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Are you really, really ready? Okay, drum roll, please. Step 5, paint yourself purple. Uh-oh. Just kidding. That's not the way to become a purple person. Actually, being a purple person has nothing to do with what you look like. My teacher says purple people look all sorts of ways. They are big and small, old and young, some wear cool coats, some wear shorts with lots of pockets, and some wear funny hats. And some are babies, for sure. She says some people feel blue sometimes and red other times, and some purple people even have green hair. Step 5, just be the real you. Like my teacher says, purple people come in every color you can dream up and every size you can think of. The only way to be purple is to just be you, because you're the only you we've got. So those are my surefire steps to turning into a purple person. Hey, wait a minute. You ask really good questions. You laugh a lot. You use your voice all the time. You are a really hard worker, and you are totally you. Well, I'll be Alama's mama. You've been beautifully purple this whole time. I sure am glad you're a purple person, because the world needs more purple people, just like each one of you. So when she says, well, I'll be Alama's mama, she says, Mama? Yeah? I know why. There's a book called Is Your Mama Alama? Yeah, there's a book called Is Your Mama Alama? That's a good book too. All right, we are going to head upstairs to our classrooms today, and we're going to be learning about how we can come together to build a bigger resistance when we need to make a big change in the world. And we're going to be doing some building activities to work on that. There might be some Legos involved today. Yeah. All right, thank you. A little tiny one. Okay, let's see. Well, I wonder if Abe and Zana would mind being our chalice lighters today, since they're visiting with us. Church are supported by the love, talents, and efforts of our many volunteers and staff, as well as the monetary support of our members and friends. If you have found this church to be of value, then I invite you to give generously as the basket is passed.
or you may click the donate button at uulynchburg.org. And there's always the old-fashioned way of sending a check to the First Unitarian Church at 818 Court Street, 24504. It is part of our tradition in this congregation to share our joy. We'll turn the recording back to Anonymous.
Meditation this morning is titled "The Youth Prayer." Earth Teach Me to Remember, provided by D.J.H. Bolton, and this note was at the beginning of it. I can't remember what this, but it comes from my father's people, and I won't try to pronounce that name, but they're also known as the Northern Ute. Earth, teach me stillness, as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me suffering, as old stones suffer with memory. Earth, teach me humility, as blossoms are humble with beginning. Earth, teach me caring, as the mother who secures her young. Earth, teach me courage, as the tree which stands alone. Earth, teach me limitation, as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me freedom, as the eagle which soars in the sky. Earth, teach me resignation, as the leaves which die in the fall. Earth, teach me regeneration, as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself, as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness, as dry fields weep in the rain. Thank you, Emily. Our speaker this morning is the Reverend Kirk Ballin. He has many and varied interests. When I asked him for some current information about his activities, I got this reply. I'm currently the richest person in the world and have already been to Mars and back and have a home 1,000 feet deep in the ocean. Aside from that, I served as minister at Meadville UU in Meadville, Pennsylvania, the UU Church of Roanoke, and First Unitarian in Lynchburg, and am a frequent speaker at Harrisonburg UU, and am currently Minister Emeritus at UU Church of Roanoke. Otherwise, I'm technically retired from any other professional position.
Not bad for a bunch of late 70s rockers. I didn't know if you saw the video or just heard the audio, but wonderful to be here with you. For those of you who don't know, I was here 20 years ago. I served this congregation as a minister and have been back a few times, but I try to think the last time I was here was obviously pre-COVID. And I can't remember when that was. So it's been a number of years since I've been here, but it's always a delight and always great to see familiar faces again and meet some new faces. So I'm going to begin with just sharing a few very short readings with you that are relevant, hopefully relevant to what I have to say with regard to my sermon. The first one is an excerpt from D.H. Lawrence's poem called Phoenix. Are you willing to be sponged out, erased, canceled, made nothing? Are you willing to be made nothing, dipped into oblivion? And the second reading comes from a quote from a woman named Jane Alexander, who's the former head of the Endowment of the Arts and a board member of various environmental organizations. And she said, "We are tearing holes in the fabric of life on Earth that supports our human lives." The third reading comes from a Nordic writing, ancient Nordic writing that's not attributed to anyone in particular. When time began, all was chaos. That is, nothing was formed or in order. There was neither sea, nor sand, nor salty wave. There was neither earth, nor sky, nor green thing anywhere. The fourth one is a comment by a young man named Manuel Bortuzzo, an Italian man, and was a promising swimmer, and he was planning to participate in the 2019 or 2020 Olympics. And he was in Rome and happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and was hit by a bullet on the outskirts of Rome. And he was diagnosed with complete spinal cord injury. But he managed to find the courage within himself and fight to reach an ambitious goal, what he called inner peace. And this is what he had to say. Mere chaos, in my opinion, should be considered like a moment for stopping and thinking. Stop and try to reorder ideas. Try to put everything back in shape again. And the fifth short reading comes from, and it's adapted from the commentary on the fifth mindfulness training and commented on by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, commit oneself to the best of one's ability to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful consumption to cultivate peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body of society and the world community. I understand that such an approach to consumption is crucial for self-transformation and for the transformation of society and of the world community. And finally, something taken from the webpage for the website for the beloved community. Dr. King's beloved community is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. In the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. And I ask you, if you would, to think back at Christmas time, not too many months ago. Back in 1970, I was dropping out of college. I was 20. I had broken up with my girlfriend, or I should say she broke up with me. And like many people of my generation, I was very averse to the dominant culture, meaning social and political norms and expectations that were defining what it meant to be an American and to be a man, to be a human being. The war in Vietnam was certainly a glaring reflection of that. But what was being presumed by society, and certainly by my parents, was that I would find my place in the established parameters of what it meant to be a successful and prosperous American. Instead of getting with the program, I was dropping out. So I did drop out of school, but I was also heartbroken, confused, and lost. At the time, I had a friend, Jim, who was, I guess, in retrospect, a model for me to emulate in how to navigate this dropping out thing. I looked to him for guidance. He had dropped out some months earlier and hooked up with an older hippie couple in their 40s and their kids living in the mountains outside of Denver. They were living very simply in a shack and lived macrobiotically. I'll say more about that in a minute. But they were also very into marijuana and even did some dealing. I too smoked a lot of pot in those days. So in my desperation and uncertainty as to what to do next, I went up to visit my friend Jim. Jim's family, the family he joined, was not home, but another young guy named Hal was there. Jim was a big guy in overalls and a plaid shirt with a full beard and a full head of long hair. Hal was slight, no beard, short hair, and in a simple black t-shirt. It was late fall, so it was cold enough in the Denver foothills to have a fire in the wood stove. We sat around and had some beans and rice and some tea. We also smoked a joint or two. I suddenly excused myself and went outside because I had a sudden wave of anxiety. When I got outside in the night, I had this overwhelming sense of being psychologically totally naked, being emotionally bare, very vulnerable. I truly felt like I was nothing. When Jim and Hal came outside, I began to speak with them, but I had this remarkable experience. When I turned my head to the side and wasn't looking to either Jim or Hal, I was very much in that place of extreme vulnerability and psychological nakedness, that nothingness. When I turned to speak with Jim and Hal, I behaved as if everything was normal while chit-chatting about whatever. It was like having a bifurcated mind, being two real myselfs that weren't particularly in sync with each other, yet each as real and legitimate as the other. I felt I was caught in a chaotic vortex sucking me down. What came out of that experience for me was no less than life-changing. Out of that chaotic moment, I could have panicked and had a mental breakdown and crisis. Instead, I became powerfully motivated to find a place of balance between my personal state of mind and the world in which I found myself. To use that chaotic upheaval to redefine for myself what it meant to be human. A very long story short, I took up the study, and I underscore the word study, of Zen macrobiotics, which starts with the understanding that what we consume matters, beginning with a properly balanced diet determined by the dynamics of yin and yang relative to the environments in which we live. Zen macrobiotics maintains diet is crucial to self-transformation and for the transformation of society. And that all relationships in life, not just the food we eat, are defined within this understanding of the dynamics of yin and yang. It gave me a context for living that was within my own control to make sense of, not simply one of conformity and manipulation. And just an aside, the use of marijuana and other substances, to the extent my friend Jim used, was very much in the extreme of the guiding principles of Zen microbiotics. Extremes are mostly avoided in this approach. Well, I lived strictly this way for several years, but I eventually had to willingly make compromises, accommodations, and choices to carve out a place of belonging within the larger culture, including going back to college to finish my BA. But the impact of that awareness has not left me. In fact, most profoundly, it made me aware of the ongoing bifurcation of my mind relative to the ever-increasing tension between my conscience and the dominant culture in which we live. Awareness of the ongoing struggle to find synchronicity between my ideals and the reality of the world in which I live. There is no doubt that the realization, the awareness of the tension between my idealism and my need to find a niche within the realism of the dominant culture came to lead me to go into the Unitarian Universalist ministry and to define the trajectory of my life. Which brings me to the here and now. Whatever our religious beliefs, whatever our colors, whatever our politics, whatever our gender identity, whatever our et ceteras, we all swim in the same dominant culture. And I think no cultural happening more profoundly demonstrates the power and nature of the dominant culture than the so-called holiday season from which we exited a few months ago, but I dare say sort of continues to linger for many of us with bills and the consequences of Christmas time that are still very much alive for many of us. Whatever your religious beliefs or identities or personal principles, Christmas time creeps into your lives, our lives, and we might welcome some of it, being with family and friends in a celebratory and loving way, being decorative and even more generous than other times of the year. But none of us are ignorant to the fact that being fundamental to the dominant culture, Christmas is really about commercialization, about production and consumption in a profit-driven way. It's about buying and spending. It's about sustaining a capitalist social and economic system. It's about feeding the dominant culture, which is sustained by material production and consumption to create monetary wealth and material accumulation. And of course, there are millions of people who are recipients of some of this wealth and material accumulation. Yet there are perhaps even more millions of people who are not such recipients and who are made even poorer in their quality of life. We want to think that Christmas time is the happiest time of the year, a time of joy, love, gratitude, etc. But we also need to know that Christmas time is a serious time of big-time exploitation, anxiety, depression, and manipulation. Our dominant culture is very selective as to who benefits from Christmas time. For many decades, my bifurcated mind struggled with the tension of the opposition between my ideals of the Christmas season and the reality of what the dominant culture imposes and expects of us. Now, I single out Christmas time because it is still within our recent memory, but it has most recently been upon us. But it is still upon us with memories and visits and bills to pay, heartaches, wishes, disappointments, and gratitude. But it is not an isolated happening. It is only just a glaring, blinding reflection of what is manifested throughout the dominant culture all of the time. And nowhere is that more apparent than on television. On TV is the most effective and pervasive tool of communication in this country and around the world. In the US, it is where the dominant culture reaches most of the population. And the purpose of non-public TV is to identify the most effective means to capture people's money. No matter what the political, religious, social agenda might be, monetary profit is the shared motivator for those who control TV and media networks. So advertising is critical to the sustenance of media corporations. So I think it's important for each of us to know what is being advertised, or that is very telling, I feel. Recently, these past few months, I participated in some big dominant cultural events, and my bifurcated mind was hard at work because I played soccer and football in high school. I still have a qualified interest in the sport. And because I was still recovering from my rotator cuff surgery in this shoulder, for those of you who have had the surgery know what I'm talking about, I was limited to what I could do. So I watched some of the World Cup soccer matches and football matches on television, some college football matches, but I intentionally skipped the Super Bowl. Aside from the millions of dollars behind the production of these games, the corruption, and the environmental impact of the resources used to accommodate these games, the advertising, the commercials, were for things like new cars and trucks, beer, Coke, fast food, investment corporations, the latest phone, insurance, credit cards, Shaq O'Neal pushing pizza. And from what I have learned about He Gets Us ad, for those of you who are familiar with that, the He Gets Us ad, which I watched after the Super Bowl, it was pushing the commodity of Jesus. And that's a whole nother sermon. What do we do with Jesus? But my personal favorite ad was the ad for a new Gillette razor blade that defoliates while you shave. I mean, wow, what a step for humankind. Maybe just, I don't know. So, with tens of millions of people watching the soccer sporting events on TV every game, perhaps the biggest world event ever to be watched, what were the values, the priorities being taught to viewers? Was there anything about the existential environmental crisis humanity and the rest of the biosphere finds ourselves in? Was there anything about how you can help address issues of poverty, injustice, violence, war, pollution, or exploitation in our society so we can all live in a healthier community? No. What matters is buying what will help make you a more acceptable participant, a more acceptable consumer in the dominant corporation's goals of becoming monetarily wealthier. Climate change and socioeconomic injustices receive no benefits from these promotions for more products upon which the dominant culture can further gorge itself. And one more thing. of the many existing smacks upside the head to bring our attention to the malignancy of our dominant culture, a huge smack is the gigantic proliferation of plastic waste in the world. The data is overwhelming. The world generates at least 400 million tons of plastic waste a year. The planet is drowning in plastic waste, a seriously unhealthy excrement of the dominant culture. And a seemingly mundane, but I think profoundly telling example of how plastic has been and continues to become the dominant culture's answer to its survival is to go into any supermarket and go to the aisle with washing detergents. There was a time not too long ago when the majority of washing detergents were, anybody want to say? Cardboard boxes. Were in cardboard boxes. Now it is rare to find any detergents in anything other than plastic. The scene of the plastic conquest of our lives cuts across practically every store-bought product. And recycling doesn't even make a blip in attempting to decrease the harming force of this tsunami of plastic. The petrochemical industry has, as the saying goes, got us by the short hairs. In 1991, the syndicated columnist Ellen Goodman, who by the way just turned 82 on April 11, the syndicated columnist Ellen Goodman referred to parenting as the real counterculture. As she put it, one of your main jobs as a parent is to counter the culture. What the media delivers to children by the masses, you are expected to rebut one at a time. It struck me then, and it strikes me now, why should a parent be fighting to raise a child while fighting what the dominant culture wants to impose? Certainly a unified society, community must have important aspects of the culture that is deeply shared by everyone in that culture, i.e. the dominant culture or the society could not exist for very long. For the nature of the dominant culture is existentially critical for the existence and sustainability of the community. In other words, the nature of the culture existing itself is essential for the community to exist. But the dominant culture needs to exist to serve the health of the society, the health of a community, the health of the families, the health of the children. So go ahead, let the dominant culture have its World Cup and its American football Super Bowl, but in the name of creation, why not use the platform for also dealing with the existential crisis that life on Earth is facing? The existential crisis that truly threatens the well-being, the welfare, the health of every human and of every life form on this planet. So my bifurcated mind accepts the primary importance of a dominant culture. But my bifurcated mind is also profoundly and disturbingly aware that the dominant culture we live in, the world community lives in, is actually bent on destroying that which is essential and fundamental to the healthy existence of the biosphere, and especially of humanity. We are tearing holes in the fabric of life on Earth that supports our human lives. Personally, I find inspiration and guidance in Thich Nhat Hanh's challenging 5 mindfulness trainings, in particular the 5th training. Thich underscores that these 5 trainings are like the North Star. They are never fully achievable, but a powerful guide along our life journeys. Mindful consumption of what we eat, drink, see, smell, hear, touch, read, think, do is fundamental to the foundation of self-transformation. So in keeping with the Christmas reference, I'm not trying to be Scrooge or Grinch about the so-called holiday season, or I'm not running around screaming out of the craziness of my bifurcated mind that the sky is falling. In fact, all of you here this morning, all of you also have well bifurcated minds. If you hold to be of value any of our Unitarian Universalist principles, and including the 8th principle, which some congregations have intentionally embraced, upholding the beloved community, you are confronting the world in which we live. You are confronting the dominant exploitive culture. So you can't help but have a bifurcated mind. So I am asking us as Unitarian Universalists to join our bifurcated minds together. My bifurcated mind is calling on your bifurcated mind to be trying to consciously find the opportunity to select out, to extract the community building and health affirming aspects embedded in this hardened, poisoned, intoxicated, dominant culture that's bent on exploiting people rather than truly fostering healthy communities. Like my existential crisis in 1970, my bifurcated mind crashing into the toxicity of the culture that controlled me, thereby creating a chaos for me out of which to intentionally determine what really matters. May our bifurcated minds foster our ideals of what matters, our Unitarian Universalist values of pluralism, independence, equity, generosity, justice, transformation, all in the service to love, as proposed in the Article 2 revision of the UUA. All of this is our way of standing against this dominant culture of exploitation that dictates our living and our dying. Let us do our part in creating a chaos out of which the beloved community and a sustainable biosphere can ultimately emerge as the driving motivators of the dominant culture, reducing the current dominant culture to nothing of value except that which serves the planetary beloved community. We must break the chains. We must break the change for future generations. For the direction of the dominant cultural road we as a world community are on right now will not take us to the planetary beloved community. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is number 100. Lift every voice.
Every voice and sing till earth and heaven, under the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun. We have come over a way that with tears has been wintered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary voice, God of our silent tears, now that all has come on the way, thou hast led us into the light of light. We pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, be again thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
As our service draws to a close, we extinguish the flame of our chalice as we say these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Here today in the spirit of our commitment to the fostering of life and love on this planet. It is a challenge to live in a bifurcated state of mind, to be in conflict with the culture in which we live as we try to transform it into one that is embracing and loving to all living forms. But as Unitarian Universalists, that is our commitment and our obligation. And it should be our joy in being able to go out and do that. Let us go in peace and renewed in spirit. Amen.